Hello and welcome to my Magicka Nightblade build. This is the kind of update to show you what I've changed, if there is anything changed. So let's get right to it. Starting off, we'll have a look at two different main sets of gear. So right now I've been doing Asylum and I've been doing Cloud Rest, both of which I can't really stand still that much. So I've been using Mother's Sorrow. We got Infused on the two big pieces, and Divines on the three smaller. We're still using Zen. Occasionally I'll be using Ice Heart if the defenses of the shield is required. Again, Infused on the big piece, Divines on the small. And this is my mobility set, so for when I'm running around and I'm never really stopping moving. In the events you're doing more simple trials, where you can stand still like Craglorns or Mole, then you can use Sororia, all the same traits as my Mother's Sorrow. So that is kind of for easier trials where you get to stand still a lot, and then Mother's Sorrow for when you're moving around a lot and you can't really build up the Sororia stacks. Then we've got Burning Spellweave. We're using this because of the spell damage boost. It's probably about the best you can get at the moment. There's a few other sets, a lot of people are on about Spell Strategist and it's got this ludicrous price, but it is only single target, but it is 100% of the uptime. I don't know, I haven't been bothered to go and buy it yet, so I haven't really tested it. I might go and do it, but honestly I'm doing fine with Burning Spellweave right now. So, as far as traits we have for this, we've got Arcane, a Bloodthirsty, and another Arcane, all max spell damage glyphs. Then our weapons, front bar Burning Spellweave 1 to complete the set, infused with a Flame glyph, and then our back bar Maelstrom Inferno. Now this is also infused. Weapon enchant though, this I change around a lot. Sometimes I'm using this one infused with magic damage and restores Magicka if I'm in a sustain intensive trial. Otherwise I just stick with this shock one. Okay, there's not really much other gear I use. I will use Ice Heart if I'm doing, say, Asylum and we're looking to have very few deaths. But apart from that, I usually stick with Zen, because I prefer playing in melee range as much as this build is actually ranged, or should be. Go through our skills real quick. So, we've got Crippling Grasp. Having this on the front bar will give us our 8% max Magicka passive, which is from Siphoning, I think? Yeah. Then we've got Merciless Resolve, 5 light attacks, and you'll get a Spectral Bow proc. It also gives you Minor Berserk. Elemental Weapon, or Swallow's Soul, my spammables. Swallow's Soul if I'm doing a hard trial, or one where I'm expecting I'm needing to heal myself a bit. And Elemental Weapon where it's just going to be a breeze, and I just want to do maximum damage. Impale, just my execute, simple as. Inner Light, a bit more max Magicka, and Spell Crit. And then we've got Fiery Rage, a large AoE ultimate. And it's on front bar because there's a passive from Destruction Staff, which is Ancient Knowledge. When you have a Destruction Staff skill equipped, it will increase the damage by 8%. Now, this tooltip is a bit wrong. It says equipping a Flame Staff increases your damage done by 8%, but you need to have a skill slotted. So this tooltip's not actually right. It might need to be fixed. Anyway, back bar. Number 1 is always my flex slot, so if I'm playing by myself or doing tests, like DPSing and DPSS, I'll be using Elemental Drain for the sustain buff it gives and the armor penetration. But regularly I don't use this in pledges, trials, dungeons, whatever. I'll just use Harness Magicka for a shield. Now we've got Siphoning attacks. every 20 seconds it will restore 4.3k, near enough max Magicka, and light attacks will restore a tiny amount every time you get one off, but this build is very light attack focused, so that's a pretty good thing. Twisting Path gives you a speed buff and a small amount of like AoE damage. Blockade of Fire, basically a slightly stronger version of Twisting, and burning enemies will take even more damage from this, so that pairs with Burning Spell Weave quite well. Another copy of Inner Light. I know a lot of people use Channeled Acceleration on the back bar on this place, or where I have my Inner Light, but I can never get used to the cast time, and every time I try using it I just do worse, so I don't bother with it. And last but not least, we got Soul Harvest, which is for we death rolls at the start of a fight, and then we'll do Soul Harvest on the boss from there on out. And whenever I'm killing trash, I'll try to be on the back bar, so this one's extra 10 ult every time I kill a target kind of is feeding me, so that's why I have that. Passive wise, we've got everything from Assassination. I don't need some of these, but I do have them all. Refreshing Shadows, Shadow Barrier, Dark Figure, Dark Veil, all the shadow ones. A lot of these are quite useful. And then all of the siphoning ones, probably the most important. Drinking a potion gets you 20 ult. Max Magicka by 8% for a siphoning skill slide. A bit more extra healing. Ultimate for using one of these skills, which means if you're spamming Soul Soul, you'll generate ultimate quite quickly. Weapon passives, we have all the Destruction Staff passives. All of these are important, so you must have these. Armor passives, again, all the light armor passives, very important to get those. If you have about 1 million skill points to spare, or enough, you can grab these ones from medium armor, because you'll still get some effect from him if you do 5-1-1. And I kind of have all the heavy armor passives, because I have used heavy armor builds on this character in the past. But effectively, all you need to do is you want to get Juggernaut, Constitution, Resolve, because Revitalize and Rapid Mending need 5 pieces of heavy armor to take effect. So just these first 3 if you want to get everything out of your armor. Nothing in these. Vampire, we have pretty much everything if you are a vampire. Fighters Guild, just banish the wicked, so every time you kill undead and danger you get ultimate. Mages Guild, all of these passives. Sigic Order, if you use any of the skills, grab them all. Nothing in Thieves Guild that's in use. The last, well, obviously the most important one's Undaunted passives. There's nothing in Alliance War which is at all useful. Well, if you're using Purge at any point, say in half, it might be a good idea to have Magicka Aid for a bit of Magicka recovery, but that's possibly the only thing you'll ever need it for. All your race passives, depending on whichever you are. Alchemy wise, medicinal use is the only one you really need to keep, but it doesn't hurt to have the ability to make potions on the character. Saves time relogging or buying. And that's pretty much all the passives you need. So we'll go through our CP quite quick, and then we'll just look at our food and other bits before we close up. Elfborn, we have 56. This will increase the damage done when you crit. Elemental Expert is flat buff to all of your like Magicka themed damage, so flame, frost, shock, magic damage. Spell Erosion, just a flat buff to your spell penetration. Mastered Arms, direct damage, so things like light attacks, spectral bow, swallow soul. There's a ton of things on Magblade that benefit from Mastered Arms. Staff Expert, I have a bunch of this in because this is again a light attack themed build. A lot of my DPS comes from light attacks, and there's enough points out of these two to grant me Butcher, which is a further 5% extra light attack damage when I'm in execute range. So it works quite well. And the dots on a Magblade are kind of ropey, so 14 Thaumaturge. The red tree, this I changed quite a bit off my default, but we'll talk about it anyway. This is my current asylum setup anyway. We got 66 in Ironclad, 38 in Spell Shield, 48 in Thick Skinned, 22 in Light Armor Focus, 32 Hardy, 64 Elemental Defender. Now this is themed for where you're taking a lot of magic damage, so possibly Mole, Asylum, possibly Cloud Rest, but then a lot of the trials don't really do much physical damage, so this will probably be good for most trials. Green Tree, break free cost reduction from Warlord, because if you get stunned you need all the stamina you can get. Sprinter, just in case you're, well, it's helpful if you're doing more backyard running and stuff like that. Bashing Focus, if your tanks are slow and interrupting. 75 in Arcanist, which is flat magic and recovery. 65 in Tenacity for restore from heavy attacks. 40 in Tumbling, so you can roll dodge. And 23 in Shadow Ward, in case you need to block anything. Again, things like this on a Magicka build are quite good to keep your stamina up, so that way you've always got enough to keep yourself alive. So, that's CP. The last few things we're going to look at is consumables and bits like that. So, we have got no source of major sorcery, so we're using Essence of Spell Power pots. They're kind of expensive, and there are one or two things you can do to avoid these. I've done test builds where the spammable being, so this build is light attack themed. So I replace elemental weapon from time to time. I've replaced it with like degeneration or entropy, or one of the two morphs, and I've used this as a spammable, and it doesn't do too badly, because every time you cast a Mage's Guild skill, it gives you empowered. And this is a light attack, like, if we look at one of my DPS passes from this character, real quick, let's find one. Well, this isn't actually a pass, hold on. So many characters. Sure, this one. If we look at our light attacks, we're doing almost 12k DPS with our light attacks. It's almost a quarter of our DPS. So, in tests I've done, where I switched out elemental weapon or sword soul for degeneration, it doesn't do too badly, which means you don't have to use the spell damage potions. It's not as high damage by any means, but I've still done over 40k DPS using this as a spammable. It's not a bad option if you can't afford the expensive spell pots all the time. So I might actually do a pause video showing this off, as silly as it is, but it's kind of fun, and it's how you get around using these literally every like 40 seconds. Then we've got food. Food-wise, Clockwork Citrus I'll use if I'm doing Asylum, or things where I'm suffering bad frame rate and I'm just playing really badly, so I need sustain. If you can't afford this, go for Witchmother's Potent Brew. It basically does the same. It's a little bit less powerful and doesn't have the health regen, but it's pretty good if you need the sustain. And the one that I use 90% of the time in pretty much everything is just regular blue food, because the sustain on this character is fine. So just if you can, stick with blue food because it will make your damage higher. But if you're having sustain troubles, don't worry about going down to Witchmothers or something. It's all fine. That's pretty much it. I think I've covered everything. If I have missed something, please leave a comment and ask questions about anything I might have missed. Anyways, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.